UFC 310. The weigh-ins are done. All the trash talk is over. The press conferences are wrapped up. We are 24 hours away from fight time. We're going to get into the breakdowns, the predictions, and the betting odds. We're going to go and jump right into it. All right, it's time for the final UFC pay-per-view event of the year, UFC 310, Pantoja versus Asakura. We're going to go through the entire fight card from the bottom to the top and run through it, see who we think is going to win, go through some bets, go through some predictions, and all the whole 9 yards. So we're going to go ahead and start at the bottom. Kennedy, I always forget how to pronounce his name, versus Lucas Przecki. The odds kind of tell the story for this one, minus 600 to plus 440. That's pretty spot on. Kennedy should win this fight, and I think he's going to win it comfortably. Lucas is 1-5 in his last 5 fights. Kennedy coming off a big first-round knockout as well. Minus 600, take Kennedy, take him to finish. I don't know about the round for sure, but he should win this game. He should win this fight and win it comfortably, so we're taking Kennedy out of the gate. Moving on now, next one. Clay Guida taking on Chase Hooper. For those of you who grew up watching Clay Guida, I was one of those guys. I remember watching him when I was a youngin'. His keeping it up high, bouncing all over the place, his hair flying all over. Yeah, those days are over. He's still kind of the same fighter, but at the same time, 38-21. He has not won a lot of fights recently. I don't have his exact record here in front of me, but I expect him to. He'll be active early. It'll be fun. He'll throw some fists wildly. There is absolutely zero reason that Chase Hooper shouldn't win this fight. He should control the distance with his length. Gets it. If Clay shoots in, tries to get in close, Chase Hooper is going to get him on the ground and strangle him. I think he is the biggest favorite on the fight on the night, and Chase Hooper by submission feels like a very safe bet on this one as well. So Chase Hooper runs away with this one. Next up, in my opinion, the first very interesting matchup with Michael Chiesa taking on Max Griffin. Michael Chiesa, not the most active fighter in recent years, but is a very strong former Ultimate Fighter winner, 17-7. Weirdly enough, one of the handful of fighters on this card with 0 KO TKO wins in his entire career, 11 submission wins, 6 by decision, coming off a rear naked choke over Tony Ferguson. Before that, he had lost 3 in a row up at welterweight. It's tough, but I also look at Max Griffin, and Max Griffin's a very, very old fighter. He's been around for a long time. He does have the ability, basically, if he wins, it's going to be a knockout and decision. He is going to bang. So the question is, does Chiesa get this to the ground, or is it standing? We've seen a little bit of alternates between win and loss for Max Griffin the last couple of years. I'm going to lean a little bit towards Mike Chiesa. I think he gets the fight on the ground. He's able to control it in this case. Maybe go find a submission as well. He controls 2 of the aspects of the fight much better. Max Griffin's best shot is he's going to have to basically crack Chiesa and crack him quick. Next up, Cody Durden taking on Joshua Van. Cody Durden ranked number 14, yet being labeled as the underdog in this fight as well. Joshua Van, explosive killer, especially at that weight class. He could be the next big dude at flyweight if he can go on a little bit of a run. Nicknamed the Fearless, very quite fitting. 23 years old, 11-2, 6 wins via KO, 3 by decision, 2 by submission. He is 1-1 in the UFC if I'm looking at this correctly. Sorry, excuse me. Okay, he's actually 4-1 in the UFC. Either way, he did lose to Charles Johnson by uppercut in the 3rd round. He did just come off a win over Edgar Chariz. So I do think he should win this fight. And I think this is kind of his, I don't want to say ticket, but this is his chance to basically assert himself into the top 15 and start to go on a little bit of a run at flyweight. Cody Durden is a very solid, strong fighter, but I got Joshua Van taking this one. Next up, Chris Weidman taking on Eric Anders in a catchweight bout that was supposed to take place at the last pay-per-view event, but Anders falling ill. They had postponed. They rescheduled it for this week, fighting at 193, I believe, is the catchweight, or 195. I look at this fight, and Eric, this is a nice 2015-16 era flashback look at this. You look at the odds, it's basically dead, even minus 115, minus 105. We all know Chris Weidman, the electric start to his career, stopping Anderson Silva twice, defending against Vitor Belfort as well as Lyoto Machida. He's definitely not the same guy coming off that leg break, especially Eric Anders. Very good former University of Alabama football player. Basically, he's going to swing and bang. It's kind of his style. It's 9 wins by KO, 6 by decision, 1 submission. It's tough too. He did win his last fight against Jamie Pickett. He's had some grappling in between. He's had some rough losses before that. But at the same time, when you look at Chris Weidman, it's been a rough stretch ever since that leg break, especially too. He's lost a grappling match. He's lost to Brad Tavares that we always talked about Uriah Hall. He did get the Bruno Silva win. As say what you want about that. It counts as a win on the card. I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to kick someone while they're down, but we'll take Chris Weidman in this one, but this is one I wouldn't be betting on. I don't feel comfortable with either fighter. But with Eric Anders, the illness that had caused him not be able to fight on fight day last time, I'm going to give the edge towards Chris Weidman on this one. Wraps up the early prelims. Moving on higher now. Randy Brown taking on Brian Battle, who did miss weight as well. The one fighter that did not make weight. Randy Brown, really good fighter, been around a long time. Brian Battle, surging fighter as well. This one, I'm going to keep it very simple. Battle is 11-2. He's the favorite already. And usually when guys miss weight, more often than not, they end up winning the fight. It feels as well. It feels like it ends up paying off more. So look for Brian Battle to win. If it gets to the ground, I think that's where he has a significant advantage. A bunch of his wins coming by submission. Randy Brown, no slouch on the ground as well. He's very balanced with how he wins with subs, TKOs, decisions. He has won 3 in a row, which does make it interesting. And I think if they both would have made weight, I would be leaning towards him. But I'm going to roll with the trend of fighters who miss weight ending up winning. So we're going to take Brian Battle in this one. I think it should be a very good scrap. One of the best fights on the prelims that should be on the main card, Movsar Evloev versus Aljamain Sterling. Movsar undefeated right now, sitting at 18-0. Aljamain Sterling, former champion, 24-4. Both awesome at featherweight, just absolutely awesome. This fight was supposed to also take place previously, had to get rescheduled. I'll start with this fight. If we're looking for a prop bet, the prop bet is it's going to decision. Movsar has 11 of his 18 wins have gone to decision. We all know about Aljamain Sterling, either submission or decision as well. Arnold Allen, Movsar looked very good against. Looked good against Diego Lopez too, getting that submission victory. Granted, they were a while ago. Danny gave it the decision victory, et cetera, et cetera. I kind of like Aljamain Sterling to pull the upset in this one, though. I think a lot of us are forgetting how good Aljamain is, considering everyone kind of remembers him from the Sean O'Malley loss, unfortunately. But since he moved up to welterweight, he did beat Calvin Kattar. He has had some success in grappling matches with Chase Hooper, JJ Wilson, etc. I really think he's going to find a way to pull this one out. I think he's going to be able to control the distance. He's a long fighter, long arms, long legs. I mean, surprisingly enough, too, Movsar does have a longer reach according to this as well. But I do think the way Aljamain uses his legs, his long jabs, you see it when he fights. It's a full extension. The straight kicks, I'm going to take Aljamain Sterling to find a way to eke out a decision here. I think it's going to be a very close fight. I think it's going to be anticlimactic in a lot of ways, but I'm going to take Aljamain Sterling to pull off the upset and get a a decision victory. Vicente Luque versus Themba Gorimbo. I like Vicente Luque a lot. I've been a big fan of his. It's been a long time since he has looked like Vicente Luque, though, unfortunately. He's had a lot of fights just fall through in the last couple of years. Lost the fight to Joaquin Buckley. Did get a unanimous decision over RDA. Before that, losing a couple of fights, too, including Bilal Muhammad and Jeff Neal. I like Vicente Luque a lot. I really do. But I think you know what? I'm going to pull it. I'm going to pull the trigger on it. This feels like he's supposed to be sacrificed here so Gorimbo can jump into the top 15. But I'm saying Vicente Luque finds a way to hold him off just a little bit longer. Next up, the main event of the prelims, Dominic Reyes versus Anthony Smith. Minus 340 odds for Reyes, plus 270 for Anthony Smith. Yeah, we're not even going to sugarcoat this one. If Dominic, loser of this fight, goes home. Whoever loses this fight needs to retire. Anthony Smith probably should retire soon anyway. Everyone else has been ripping on him before on the internet. I won't jump on that as well. 38-20, been around a long time. Barely makes he barely gets to the weight. He usually barely. I remember. Okay, I'm stuttering here. First of all, he had to take an extra 60 minutes to make weight for this fight to cut the extra 2 pounds. But I also remember him when he fought John Jones having to drink water to get up to 205. So I don't know what that means. I don't know what that's conducive of, but frankly, the fact that he had to take that extra effort to make weight, Dominic Reyes better on the feet, more athletic. I think he's starting to get back in his groove a little bit. I know he had that rough losing streak after the John Jones loss. So I do think we're going to see Dominic Reyes find a way back into this one. I think he's going to get back in the win column and take this one over Anthony Smith. If he doesn't, it's time to go home. It's time to retire at this point. That loss to John would end up being the peak of your career, and it's only gone worse then. So I think he beats Anthony Smith and starts to maybe make a little bit of a push towards a second title shot, some higher up opponents, see if he can get back on the horse. So give me Dominic Reyes comfortably. Nathan Landwehr versus Do Hoo Choi. Nathan Landwehr is the favorite. I understand that. I'm gonna go with Do Hoo Choi. I still remember him on his rise leading up to that Cub Swanson fight when he's like 15-1 or something ridiculous like that. He is an absolute banger. 12 of his 15 wins by knockout, 2 by decision, 1 by submission. He's had a bit of a rough stretch the last couple of years. Just a lot of inactivity too. I mean, he lost the 3 in a row to Swanson, Jourdain, and Stevens. All 2 of them by TKO, 1 of them by just him and Cub Swanson beating the piss out of each other for 3 rounds. That was also almost 9 years ago now. It's been a long time, and he's only fought a couple of times since then. Canceled bouts, injuries, etc. He did have a knockout win his last fight against Bill Algeo earlier this year, just a couple of months ago. I do think he finds a way to get back in the win column. He's still explosive, and he's still not a very old fighter necessarily as well. I mean, he's 33 years old. He's got a few more years at this weight class of being awesome. So I'm going to take Do Hoo Choi to pull off the upset, and I won't say a finish, even though if he wins, chances are it's going to be a finish, but we'll leave that little bit of that window open. I'm going to take Do Hoo Choi as the winner here. Bryce Mitchell, Kron Gracie. This fight should not be on the main card. Bryce Mitchell should be fighting somebody in the top 15, not Kron Gracie, who, well, he's basically a submission guy who is just dabbling into MMA in the octagon here and there. Him and Cub Swanson was weirdly fun. I do remember that fight in 2019, I believe it was. He did lose, but it was weirdly fun. He did get a submission win over Alex Caceres. That's a good win. Lost to Charles Jourdain. He has one way to win, really. Well, 2 ways. He holds you down or he gets a tap out. Bryce Mitchell is not the sharpest tool in the shed. In fact, he's kind of a doofus, but I think he is smart enough to not just engage in that game. He should be better on the feet, more athletic, being able to control the fight, control the distance, shouldn't dive into his guard and give him that opportunity. Bryce Mitchell should win this fight easily. I think if it does end up in a finish, it would be Kron Gracie catching him. But I'm going to say Bryce Mitchell finds a way to win a decision because there's no reason that he should be even fighting Kron Gracie, but I think he'll take this one. Next up, heavyweight battle royale. Ciryl Gane taking on Alexander Volkov, number 2 versus number 3. A rematch in which Ciryl Gane won the first one, and betting odds giving him a big favor here, minus 345 to plus 275. Alexander Volkov going on a nice little winning streak recently of his own with, wins over Sergey Pavlovich, Tai Tuivasa, Alexander Romanov, Jairzinho Rodenstrike. Basically he's won 4 in a row since his loss to Tom Aspinall. Winner of this fight is most likely fighting Tom Aspinall. Maybe John Jones. We'll see how all that mess plays out. But Ciryl Gane, since that John Jones fight, he does have the win over Sergey Spivak as well with a second round KO. This one's very tough. I think Volkov has more ways to win. If it stays on the feet, I like Ciryl Gane to control it. But I think if Volkov can pressure Gane, control the distance, and then take him down when it gets close. If it goes to the ground, I like Volkov's chances to win. That being said, I'm still going to take Ciryl Gane, but I think Volkov has more ways to win than the odds would suggest. So we're going to take Volkov. We're going to take Ciryl Gane, but we're not going to bet on this one because I think Volkov makes it very, very interesting. Next up, we got my favorite fight on the card. Shavkat Rakhmonov taking on Ian Garry. Once again, the odds, minus 375 for Shavkat, plus 295 for Garry. Look, Garry is very unlikable. Rightfully so. He has done it himself and everything else that goes into that. We won't dive too deep into that. Everyone has seen that before. It's very easy to dislike him, but I think we're underestimating how good of a fighter he is. He is very good on the feet. He's very athletic. He's good getting in and out, controlling distance, leg kicks, jabs, punches to the body, to the head, straight line punches. Initially, when this was released, I was like, oh, I kind of like him. I think Ian can win this fight. I think he's a really good matchup. This is the most combined wins between 2 undefeated fighters of all time, if I'm not mistaken, surpassing Israel Adesanya and Paulo Costa. Seeing them during facing off with each other and standing next to each other and everything throughout the week, I got a little bit more uneasy because I know from what they said, Ian Garry's nutritionist has him kind of on a veganish diet, it feels like. And it really shows he has looked a lot softer, I don't call him a soy boy because that's very stereotypical internet bro talk, but you've seen him. He does. When you see him stand next to Shavkat, it's like, oh, he could snap him in half. When Shavkat hits him once, it's going to hurt a lot more than when Ian hits him 2, 3, 4 times. It's just body-wise, it feels like he is going to break down Ian's body over time. The punches are going to hurt more. The grappling's going to hurt. I think Ian's going to win early if it's If it goes the distance, I think he can Michael Bisping his way to a decision victory. A lot of movement, a lot of that. But if it does end inside the distance, Shavkat's going to get a hold of him. He's going to catch him. It's going to hurt him. He's going to punch him in the chest, and it's going to shake him. I think eventually Shavkat will find a way to get to him. So I'm going to take Shavkat as well. I really do think, though, the odds are interesting. Maybe they think the same thing I do. I do think if Ian just was a little bit more filled out, he just looks he looks very like everything is going to hurt so much more. So we're going to take Shavkat in this one as well, punching his ticket to a title shot with Bilal Muhammad. Next up, and finally, we got the challenger, Kai Asakura, taking on the champion, Alexandre Pantoja, minus 285 to plus 230. I'll keep this one relatively quick, too. I think if Kai Asakura could win, he would be an absolute superstar. He already has Eastern Europe, Asia, and a lot of that market. He's already a star there. This would basically get him on everybody's radar in the West. He's a knockout artist as well. At least I should rephrase that. He gets a lot of knockouts. 13 of his wins by knockout, 3 by submission. I think he would be an absolutely electric champion. I am kind of rooting for him, but I will not bet on that one. Alexandre Pantoja, better fighter, more well-rounded. I think he's going to get a hold of him. I think he's going to be able to grind out those early rounds, maybe find a finish late. Pantoja is better on the feet than I think he gets a little bit of credit for. Not to mention with Asakura, your UFC debut. So there's a little bit of the jitters there. It's in a title fight, so it's now 5 rounds on top of that. And not to mention, he's always fought in like the roped square that they have in Japan between Ryzen and those other promotions. This will be his first time in a caged octagon, so it's different control of the ring, different when you get pushed back into the cage as opposed to the ropes, just different layouts there. So I'm gonna take Pantoja. I don't know if he'll go to decision or if he'll finish him, but I think Pantoja finds a way to win. Kai Asakura, first round KO, is very much on the board. He has promised it. He's got the right feel to it. You see him in the press conference, and some of the things he says is like, oh, yeah, that guy, if he gets the champion, if he gets the belt, I think he's going to make a lot of noise at flyweight. That being said, I don't think he gets it now. I wish he had just one more fight before taking on the title, but they just couldn't find anything for him. But that's what I'm looking at for my UFC 310 predictions, bets, and breakdowns. Let us know down below what you were looking at for this fight card, favorite bets, who you think is going to win. And what do you think of the matchups as well? I think it's a pretty solid fight card, despite maybe a little bit more lackluster with the main event, just because it's a newcomer taking on a champion who doesn't stand out quite as much. Very good fight card, though, top to bottom. A very solid way to end out the pay-per-views for 2024. Let us know down below what you think, and we will see you all again next time.